Good afternoon, everybody. It's 1 o'clock and we're starting another of our webinars, and thank you very much for joining us today. Today we are, of course, showcasing Binarii Labs and PilotPath, and I'll introduce you properly to them in a minute or two. But first of all, I just wanted to quickly talk about EIS. EIS is a very nice incentive, tax incentive that the government gives to investors who are investing in startup companies who are qualifying. And of course, Binarii Labs and PilotPath are both qualifying for EIS as is indicated on the site. It's a 40% rebate that you get as an investor investing into these companies, which is a very nice incentive, and that is done through the revenue tax system as well. So you submit a piece of paper, a qualifying an SOQ, it's called, at the end of the tax year, and you get that 40% back. So €1,000 worth of investment really only costs you €600. And it's there, the government put that in there to stimulate investment from private investors into companies, indigenous Irish companies, and that's what it's done. That's what it's all about. You have to hold the investment for 4 years, and that is again very easily done, particularly of the longevity of the businesses and the fact that they are going to be scaling during that 4-year period anyway. And obviously, when there's an exit, then that you're getting investment back. You're getting a return back on the exit that they have as well. So not only do you get the 40% back, you hopefully get an increase in the investment that you have as well. So it's a great incentive that the government has put together. And as I say, most of the companies that we have on the site are EIS qualifying. There is a maximum that you can invest, and that maximum is very high. It's at €250,000 a year. So so there's a very high ceiling on that, and the minimum that you have to invest in each investment is only €250. So it really is a very nice incentive. So anyway, I just really wanted to talk quickly about that. But today we're on to today's business, and the first on the rank today is Binarii Labs. So Aidan, if you'd like to switch on your camera, please, that'd be great. I'll do a quick introduction. So this is Aidan Finn, CEO of Binarii Labs. Binarii Labs is a security business. It's got patented software, and Aidan will go into much more detail about this in a few minutes. What it does is fragments the files, and again, Aidan will talk about this in much more better detail than I, but fragments the files and stores them in separate locations, and gives that seamless retrieval, and that helps with the cybersecurity of those files. It's revenue generating. It's an HPSU client with Enterprise Ireland. It qualifies for EIS, as I was just saying. And they've just been selected as finalists for the KPMG Global Tech Innovator 2023, and they'll be, over the next month or so, be going in front of panels of investors, and they'll be choosing one of those to go forward into the global one. So that's great that Binarii have been selected for that. Moreover, they've got very good high quality investors in the business already. So you're getting a VC quality investment here, but you've also got that added 40% as well. So as I said, this is Aidan, CEO of the business. And Aidan, if you'd like to say hello and switch on your presentation, and you can get cracking on that, if you would, please.
Sure thing. We'll go straight into it. I appreciate everyone taking the time to join. So here we are, Binarii Labs. As Chris mentioned there in the outset, we've had the happy news this month of being announced as finalists in the Irish section of the KPMG Global Technology Innovators Competition. This is an award where the Irish winners will go forward in November to represent Ireland, competing against 21 other states globally in Lisbon. To qualify as a finalist, we had to go through a rigorous application process, interviews, and ultimately there's 8 of us left at this stage to be chosen from, but the choosing will occur over the summer. So what do we do? Well, we promise business continuity, and we eliminate disaster recovery. And what that means is that even in the event of a cloud access being simply denied, or indeed your cloud access were still having been breached, is that you, the user, continue to have full access uninterrupted to your files at all times. Meanwhile, the bad actor has only access to useless and incomplete information. So the process for what would be normally a complex and time-consuming disaster recovery is very, very simple and straightforward. Why are we doing this? Well, these headlines are exactly why, and unfortunately we're getting very used to seeing these headlines on a very regular basis, and the extent and the reach and the cynicism that is now coupled with the sophistication of these attacks is means that, for instance, 78% of every law firm at this stage has been breached. So what do we do? Well, here's a file. Normally one would secure this file in a primary location, then create a duplicate and put it in a secondary location, or otherwise known as backup, to create a data redundancy. What we do is we do that up front automatically. So every user, regardless of their technical capability, once the document is uploaded, there's an immediate duplicate created. Then immediately, both of those files are broken up into identical fragments. It could be hundreds or thousands of fragments, depends on the security settings. In this case, we're just illustrating with 3 to make it easy to explain. So in this scenario, the first file was split into A, B, and C fragments, and then the second file was split into identical A, B, and C backups. Those fragments get mixed up in a mixing bowl and get distributed across 3, in this case 3, but it could be more, cloud storage locations that uniquely are owned and controlled 100% by the user. So Binarii DMS does not involve custody of the files in any way, nor is there any other third party required or asked to safeguard or provide custody for these files. You can see here that in this example, A and B fragments have gone into storage location 1, A and C into storage location 2, and B and C into storage location 3. As they're going in, they're also encrypted. So what that means is there's never a complete file in any one location, and also what is in those locations are micro fragments, each one encrypted in the location. So what that means for a bad actor is that they arrive into what they find or think is a successful breach, break into a cloud storage location and find instead hundreds of thousands or even millions potentially of tiny fragments, all of them encrypted. At that point, they could try to start to work through decrypting, or typically they would slap a lock on and send a ransomware note. At that point, you literally say, you're fine, thank you very much, because business continuity, as mentioned before, has occurred. You have constant access uninterrupted through to all of your files through the other locations. And disaster recovery means simply creating a new cloud location and recreating the files across the 3 or 4 or 5 locations that you choose. So this is currently what the dashboard looks like for the document management system. Simple, very familiar to use, easy to use, and it's a third-party solution for now. So you can create an organization, you can create a folder, you can create a number of subfolders, and you can upload files to any folder. And even within a folder, you don't need to give global permission to X number of people. You can do it on a file-by-file basis and be really selective. Every time a file is uploaded, incidentally, what's occurring at the same time is a unique identifier number from the metadata that's in that document, which is never going to be changed, is indexed to a blockchain record. And that blockchain record is coupled with a date and time stamp and the digital signature of the profile of the person or user who secured that file. Likewise, if that file is shared in the same way, and what that gives is an uneditable, what they call immutable record that's independent and that's capable of being examined by all parties to the document sharing, as distinct from just the owner of the DMS. So it protects the enterprise. It ensures staff are fully aware that this is occurring. So any temptation to try and manipulate or edit the metadata or backdating is going to be caught out by the independent record that's occurring. Psyker is a product that's using the very same technology, but in a different way. We've built a browser extension for individuals, and that's to protect phrases like passwords, PIN numbers, security answers, or even seed words in a crypto wallet. Same thing happens. Instead of a document or a file, it's a packet of data that is whatever you have inputted as the user that gets duplicated, broken up, and distributed across multiple cloud locations that you, the user, owns. We are US patent granted. We have been since we got the notice in January. We got the cert in March this year. We're UK patent pending also. The way global patenting works is, we'd have a very strong expectation that the UK patent approval will follow, because all queries and questions from the US is shared with the UK and vice versa under a WIPO agreement. The UK have a bit of a backlog right now, so they literally have had a conversation with our IP attorney. They've told us we're in the queue. They've acknowledged the receipt of all queries and questions, and they seem happy with what they've seen. So the team, we've got 4 founders, with Stephen Garner, Nigel Carter, myself, and Kieran McNamee, and our non-executive chairperson, Dr. Amrit Kumar. Amrit is actually the founder and creator of the Zilliqa blockchain. Zilliqa is an enterprise blockchain that spun out of the University of Singapore. He's a PhD in computer science and master's in cryptography, and he's a specialist in zero knowledge proofs. So those 3 things combined are key to, well, it was key to us to find someone who fundamentally understood what we were doing and aligned, and he really loved what we were doing. Hence, we're the only, apart from his own business right now, we're the only other project that he's working with. Kieran has a background in internationally at a very high level in management in securities lending and asset the asset industry, in investment banking. My background is in general management, operations, team building, leading, and we both worked together as co-founders in a previous blockchain startup that spun out of Ireland that's now operating in Singapore, or sorry, in Switzerland. We've both exited from that since late 2020. Nigel and Stephen had also worked together previously, and they'd worked together on developing a lot of the IP. Stephen is the architect, he's the technical founder. His background is steeped in working for investment banks and funds in building proprietary solutions in-house for securing sensitive data. So we're restricting our targets in terms of our objectives for industry, and not to get caught chasing too many rabbits as such, because the solution is quite horizontal. So we're focusing on the legal industry and staying with the small to medium enterprise size for now, and the funds industry likewise in small to medium enterprise. There are 2 very large verticals, and even in the jurisdictions that we've narrowed down to, there's over 8 billion documents processed every year in the legal industry in the SME sector alone, between Ireland, UK, and California. And there's, as you can see there, there's over 15.5 trillion in assets under management, managed by only 185 firms, but involving over 52,000 funds. So there's a lot of documentation. These are both selected as very document heavy and kind of analog reliant industries. So far, we have a licensee approach to working with a lead licensee who's a technology specialist in go-to-market, manages systems integrations and API management for a lot of very high-level Fortune 500 clients based in the UK and in the US. That's Quantum H, which is a subsidiary of Quasi Technology. So they're assisting us with a significant amount of the go-to-market, but also in supporting other licensees in providing technical support and customer support. EA Capital are a fantastic partner based in South Africa. They are a qualified financial advisory firm who specialize in blockchain and payments. So EA Capital have been working very closely in building a community of people both interested and engaged in becoming clients of both products. Credence, the same, they're a compliance business in Singapore. And Unifees is interesting, they're a slightly different vertical, but they're focused on managing the paper process of university student qualifications as they apply for international placements in colleges outside of India. It's a very big market and they're very established in that regard. Zach Consulting in the UK and Scott McLaren in Hong Kong and Eddie Lim in Singapore are also involved in supporting us in that go-to-market. What's interesting about all of these is we're not taking the typical approach of going with channel partners and technology resellers. We're working with people in industry who know the pain points, who are very well connected at high levels with the ability to have C-level conversations in introducing our product. So far we've pilot clients engaged at Deep Paradigm Capital, who are a fund in BVI. Revix in South Africa are currently scoping with us. Arnold Golden Gregory, who are a 200-person firm in Atlanta and Washington, DC. And Sherwin O'Riordan, who are a 25-professional firm here in Dublin, who specialize in corporate M&A. The Catalyst Group are fund administrators, quite a significant size in Cayman. And Provenance are a compliance specialist in Cayman also. Millennium Chambers are an online group that provide services to barristers and solicitors in London. And MWEC are not currently engaged, but we're engaging with them, and they're also in the compliance space. We've been heavily supported by the Northern California Innovation District. We had our earliest investors come from California through them, through their angel group. And likewise, they've introduced the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. So they've actually already given us assurances on having commercial real estate space there, which is not just subsidized, it's actually been given to us free for over a year. Enterprise Ireland, as Chris mentioned, have been brilliant supporters, and we are a HPSU client, so it's a high potential startup unit. We are supported by the European Union Regional Development Fund through our very early stage of local enterprise office in Kildare, where we were registered getting support. And we're based in Nova UCD, where we're accepted as a spin-out. And Maynooth University have also aligned with us on research and development work. So I popped this slide in because actually since the previous slide and since we last presented, the range of partners and clients has grown even larger, and it's been really exciting and encouraging. But one of the reasons I popped this in is a rather special and exciting announcement for us, is that the logo in the bottom right corner there, which any of the eagle-eyed folks amongst you might have seen in some of our previous decks, but we never announced, is EIT Digital. And EIT Digital run a program called the Innovation Factory, which is one that we have been accepted onto. There's only 8 businesses across Europe selected for EIT Digital 2023, and we're one of them. We're the only Irish company involved. And what this means is we've now accessed European Innovation Fund support of 400,000 to add into our fundraise. But it means a lot more than that, because the qualitatives that come with EIT Digital is all about focusing on a sprint to iteratively improve the commercial viability of the product. In this case, it's Binarii DMS across their network across Europe and America. So we're really excited. We start yesterday and we run through until December in terms of the deliverables, but then we get supported for another 6 months beyond that. So obviously people often ask about, what are we doing or who are we competing with? And in a way, we're doing things very differently. So in some ways, we actually align as a potential synergistic service with some of our competitors. But if you were to look directly at what people use for secure file transfer protocol and for managing documents in the SME sector in particular, Box and Dropbox and WeTransfer are the dominant players. We're already a more secure file transfer protocol because of how we operate. We know that Dropbox, Box, and WeTransfer are very simple to use, but they're not simple to use when you need to ensure you add on the security type of cybersecurity levels that need to be added. So that is what we do. We're distributing Sicure through licensed resellers, as I mentioned earlier, and Binarii DMS also through licensed resellers, but in different verticals. In terms of where we are, we've just announced, as I said, that we've achieved the EIT Digital 400K. Incidentally, that valuation was supported by an investor who also invested 250K, and it's at a far, far higher valuation point for that 650K than what we're actually raising at now. So we've essentially closed the Seed Plus round at 20 million post money based on that 650K. So where we are, we're 61% funded. We've just got the news, we've got 400K coming from EIT Digital, which essentially means we've achieved our target. But we do have a shareholder resolution that allows us to extend and oversubscribe. And that's what we hope to do rather quickly over the next 2 to 3 weeks to close it all out with a strong finish. What we're offering is 900,000 was the investable amount for 11.84% of ordinary equity. Thank you.
Excellent. Aidan, thank you very much indeed. That's a great presentation of what Binarii is all about, and I think it's a complex piece of understanding needed to actually follow exactly what it is. But I think you made it very clear as to how that works, and the two products that you've actually got there to actually to achieve that, one for the data management system and one for the secure passwords. So excellent. Thank you very much. We've got a number of questions that have come in already, so I'll start off, and then Fergal can go on to the next one. Given the blockchain technology is a feature of Binarii, is asset management an active market that you're looking to go into as well?
Well, we are. The fund space is asset management, and we're very much now, not in the sense that we would be managing or digitalizing assets on the blockchain, but we feel actually more importantly, we're securing all of the paperwork and digitalizing even all of the paperwork around that process. So subscription agreements, onboarding, KYC, AML, personal identifier information, and more importantly, I think proving and protecting the entity who's charged by the regulator with doing this properly, that the date and time stamp is there as with the proof of record to support them.
Very good.
Excellent. Hi, Aidan. I have a question here regarding onboarding. So how easy is it to onboard a new customer, and how long does it normally take to set up Binarii DMS?
So Binarii DMS is very simple. We're actually have what we're calling Binarii Gateway, which is an onboarding step. And in there's a very simple suite of APIs to allow people to select their cloud, link their existing cloud providers, and add more accounts if need be. So that's designed to be very, very simple and non-technical in that regard. There's no complexity in terms of time delay. Once you have your cloud linked through the APIs, you're in.
Excellent. One of the investors is asking, can you describe your eureka moment? What was it? What led to the discovery that you've actually put together in the business that you formed?
Well, to be fair, it wasn't mine, and it was probably less of a eureka moment and more of a blunt pain from banging his head against the wall, which was Stephen Garner's creation as the architect. Stephen built legacy systems. He built the world's first digital derivative trading platform in JP Morgan for JP Morgan. He's paranoid about security, and he was always frustrated by the kind of blinkers being on in looking at how do we protect storage locations. And he always scratched his head and said, why can't we focus on protecting the data regardless of where it is? And that's where he has a very interesting story about his eureka moment, though, and it's from Harry Potter. And it was a game in Harry Potter, which was like a treasure hunt. Don't ask me what it's called, he'd tell you. But it was a treasure hunt, and it was a treasure hunt of breaking up the stuff and putting it all over the map. And that was his actual eureka moment of, oh, well, we could do that. why couldn't we do it digitally?
Very good.
Excellent. Just a question here as well, just on the ISO standardization.
Yeah.
Aidan, so what's your progress there?
Yeah, listen, EIT Digital is a fantastic buffer for us because it kind of buys us time whilst also accelerating the ability to go to market. And part of that is achieving ISO. So it's in progress.
Excellent.
But the pressure, like we're only forecasting to receive revenue on Binarii DMS from early stage pilot clients at this stage, whereas Psycher is more aggressive. So we've already exceeded that objective in terms of revenue for this year from Binarii DMS in terms of what we're signing up in paper right now. And then we have, as I said, the dedicated support of EIT Digital towards working with those pilot clients to ensure that, you know, it's not what we think is best for the market, it's what these guys feedback and tell us is best in practice as we iteratively improve. ISO is a kind of a table stakes thing, but also SOC 2. We will go for SOC 2 at the same time or concurrently. SOC 2 takes a little longer.
Excellent.
Question regarding the actual two products, the Psycher product and the DMS product. How confident are you that you can be successful in doing the two channels at the same time?
Yeah, a little bit of what I said earlier about EIT is we've already proven it. I mean, we've gotten European Innovation Fund sign off. We're one of 8 companies supported, purely selected by virtue of being a product that can be commercialized and there is a need for across the European spectrum and the US spectrum multinationals. So from a Binarii DMS perspective, like I say, pressure's off a little bit because it's on big time because we now have to work to a very strict schedule with Europe, but pressure's off in terms of having the distraction of chasing the market and looking for the client users for that product. Meanwhile, we get to focus that energy on Psycher because that's the one that's going to be in people's hands quicker. It's already been pre-sold, pre-release, and will be in people's hands in market very soon. And like I say, it's already happened. The revenue has come from both sides already.
Brilliant. Technical question, Aidan. So with your proof of record happening via blockchain, how can you possibly say or know if the information in the document is valid, true, or not fraudulent?
We don't, and that's the whole point. There's too much talk in the blockchain space about single source of truth. A blockchain is not a single source of truth. It's a single source of validating whatever somebody inputted onto it. So if that was a lie, you get to prove the lie. So if somebody recorded a fraudulent document or tried to say a document was recorded on a different date than it actually was, the proof of record, the whole point of proof of record is it's a completely independent, uneditable, what they call immutable record that either proves the claim is true, as in this document, yes, the exact same version was recorded as secured on this date at this time by this person, or actually no, either what is being presented now as this document is not actually that document at all. It's one that's been edited and tampered with. That's the first point. The second one is if it is the original document, well, and it's something that was a lie or fraudulent, then it's actually you've provided your own. You've actually provided the whip to whip yourself with by committing that to a blockchain record, showing that you did do that on such and such a date at such and such a time.
Very good.
Okay, like a full audit trail.
We're running out of time, but a couple more questions. Please explain what is different with regards to the patent and what it protects. What does the patent protect?
Well, patent protects the Oracle approach, which is a combination of the steps by which the fragmentation, the duplication, the fragmentation, the encryption, and the indexing of the blockchain all occurs. So it's a whole combined piece. It means that we have multiple opportunities to commoditize that through different modular solutions but protected by the same patent.
Very good. Okay. Listen, I think we'll actually wrap it up there. I didn't realize it was actually 1:30 already. So
Great.
Aidan, thank you very much indeed for that. There are a number of questions in addition, so we'll answer those offline, and we'll get those published onto the site in the next day or two. So Aidan, thanks very much indeed, and really appreciate that. And what I'll do now is ask Craig to switch his camera on if you can. Craig, good to see you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Yes.
So Craig is the CEO and founder of PilotPath, and you're very welcome. Just a quick overview of what PilotPath is all about. There's a big crunch of pilots across Europe, a shortage of them, and the US for that matter. And what PilotPath is doing is opening up that flight training to a much wider cohort than was previously there. And again, Craig will explain this in a bit more detail through his presentation. So its engagement process, its engagement program is slashing the dropout rates. It's entered into the UK now, and it's a really scalable model. And so that's PilotPath in a very quick nutshell. So if you'd like to share your screen, please, Craig, and you can go into your presentation, and I'll see you on the other side for the Q&A. So don't forget, everybody, Q&A in the questions and answers, and we'll pose those to Craig in a few minutes. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Right, Chris, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you to everybody who's come on today to hear from myself around PilotPath, and you're all very welcome. So I'm really excited to complete this presentation today, and it's off the back of a big industry announcement that came through earlier on in the week. The leading aviation analysis tool and global aviation heavyweight overall, the CAE, have updated their most recent predictions to the shortage globally and within an EU level we will face for pilots over the next couple of years. Something that is not really tracked for people outside aviation often is the manageable pattern of crises that have come in aviation over the last 20 years. If we look back to 2001, we had 9/11. We look back to 2010, we had the volcanic ash crisis. We look back to 2020, we had COVID-19 pandemic. And the predicted crises ahead of us now within the EU, and I suppose globally, is the global pilot shortage. So PilotPath is very well positioned to manage that shortage. PilotPath overall is a flight training coordination company, and it's designed to recruit and manage an entirely new cohort of students into the training of pilots and into the aviation sphere overall. We're offering affordable, flexible training plans on a modular part-time basis, and specializing in allowing these part-time students while working full-time to achieve full commercial pilot qualification. It's opposed to the archaic and I suppose previous industry standard of full-time courses completed on one site for 100 and 120,000 euro up front. And it appeals to a much larger audience as opposed to the people that would typically have that money there and be able to take 2 years off work. What's become really apparent within this prediction of global aviation crises is that the cottage industry that exists for pilot training now is not sustainable. With the forecast updated to 44,000 pilots short in the EU, we need to look outside the boundaries of what's been accepted up to now, and I suppose what's outside the checklist for pilot training going forward. On this slide, I've outlined a couple of summary reasons to invest, and to kind of give you some background on the company overall. We incorporated in 2020 while I was still working as head of in-flight for the Ryanair Group, and we took our first student post COVID-19 pandemic school restrictions in March 21. From that point on, we've generated over 700,000 euro in revenues up to the end of 2022 in our published accounts, and we're on track this year to exceed 2023 revenues past our target of 500,000. We have a management team of 4 full-time employees now, with 1 self-employed pilot contractor based in the UK. Of the 4 employees that are working with us now that I'll kind of chat about a bit later, 3 of which are from Ryanair and 2 of which have previously worked for me in different capacities of engagement, managing typically around 2,500 to 3,000 aviation professionals and pilots overall. The solution that PilotPath is bringing is something that's really scalable across the EU, considering how we're governed by EASA, the European Aviation Safety Authority, that puts all the different pilot training regulations across the single market and to a certain extent the UK within one boundary and one parameter. And as global aviation continues to grow, the demand and the competition between airlines to recruit pilots also continues to grow, leaving PilotPath in a perfect place to fulfill some of the shortage and ideally deliver around 2,500 pilots to airline by 2027 outside the normal months. We have a valuation of just 3 million, which drops 1.8 million after EIS, and that valuation was completed outside PilotPath under the FME model. Within, I suppose, the vision and the value proposition overall, we are an Irish-based company. We're based in the Guinness Enterprise Centre here in Dublin. We are based on the top floor, and we've grown from co-working with 1 employee within the last year to taking on a penthouse suite with 4 employees and the ability to grow now over the next couple of months. The overall vision for PilotPath is to take us from being this Irish company, this small Irish company, to an EU-wide company. My vision personally is now to deliver PilotPath as an EU-wide training platform where skills can manage and serve their part-time students on a much larger basis through our coordination concept, and to be able to directly sell our product development of our software over the next couple of years, as well as our secret sauce that we have now in terms of the coordination service we're providing directly to clients, and continue to build that post-investment. We are transforming the landscape. Up till this point, it's been very, very exclusive. It's very difficult to get into. I began pilot training 6-7 years ago at this stage with a loan off the credit union and money to try and make this happen. And what I found 15,000 euro later was that the system was broken, and it wasn't necessarily me that was broken, which inspired the overall PilotPath concept and for me to start the business overall. Our innovation and the hands-on management side of things that we're pushing through at the moment, it's opening up access to people from software developers to engineers, to aeronautical engineers, to chefs, to cabin crew. The people we're able to draw in through this program has allowed us to collect the largest collection of students in Ireland, and allowed us to bootstrap the company into John Lennon International Airport in the UK just 8 weeks ago, where we took student 0 within 4 weeks of launch in the UK. Overall, the problem, I suppose, is it's quite obvious once it's laid out there for everyone. The traditional route to become a pilot has always been guided by typically ex-commercial pilots who spent their entire career usually following a checklist and following specific measures and parameters to operate in. What I've done is I've taken out them blinkers and I've looked at how can we do this without giving up my job? How can I do this without giving up my house? How can I give this without putting food on the table for the kids? How can I invest in my career and make sure my life continues as normal? The full-time integrated system that currently exists, it's structurally very rigid, and it's kept pilot training numbers relatively low, which is why we've had to see the big 5 carriers within the EU starting to look at Brazil, South Africa, Turkey to bring non-EU pilots in, retrain them and have them qualified for their aircraft. That's not what airlines want to do from experience, and it's not a sustainable pattern of recruitment. In the EU alone, with the delivery of new aircraft into the economic area and the attrition overall of pilots as they hit a metric of 60 or 65 to retire, has led us to a point where CAE are predicting that this 42,000 pilot shortage last week up to 44,000 now this week over the next 7 years is going to absolutely decimate the industry. Where we come in then is we look at the entire target market and we bring our concept and solution to it. We expect to deliver 2,500 qualified pilots over the next 5 years, with cumulative revenues on our platform in the same period to reach over 15 million. We plan to enter 9 geographical locations across Western Europe between 2023 and 2027, including Ireland and the UK, which we have now hit, into France, Italy, Germany, Austria, Spain, Portugal, and the Scandinavian countries, in time with the Benelux countries also entering in. The annual aviation training spend in these locations specifically is typically around 297 million out of a global 6.2 million. And over the 5-year total that we have our projected growth now, the total training spend is actually estimated to be 1.5 billion. And we're looking to target 9% of that share as we stand today. The solution that we brought to pilot training and that we're using to disrupt this industry, it's come at a time that's been really needed. Typically, when we first entered the market around 2 years ago, people didn't take too much notice of us. They didn't look at us as much of a threat. And as late as October last year, We went into exhibitions and pilot exhibitions in Crow Park, the Aviva Stadium, and different locations, and it became very quickly apparent to our competitors that PilotPath was recruiting big numbers in terms of the amount of interest we had and the amount of signups we had post-event. It's very reasonable to say PilotPath was probably the most successful company at these exhibitions last year. And that's because we're reaching out to the people who don't have 100 grand and who actually really want to make this happen for them and are motivated to make it happen. We arrange flight training through our partner flight schools, of which we have 10 as we stand today, for part-time trainees to train at a pace that suits them. And we reduce the exclusivity in entering this market and entering this industry overall by negotiating flexible modular teaching schedules, phase payment plans to students that are typically equal across the board, a 35% discount from that 120,000 fee overall and spread over a period of time. What I like to, I suppose, and analogize this to is the concept of buying a car. Some people may pay 60,000 on finance over 5 years for a car, and that seems normal to them. I'm guilty of it. 8 years ago, I done the same thing, and if someone had to take in my hand and said, Craig, follow this path, invest this much in your career for the next couple of years, I'd be a commercial airline pilot as we stand today. And it really brings in the point that this is really attainable and really manageable when the personal, the financial, and I suppose the professional pitfalls are all removed from that part-time training schedule and that program and platform. And we let the student focus on the flying and we take out everything else. Management, it isn't just about schedules. It's not just about cost efficiencies. It's a really long endeavor. I've been there, I've done it, and I couldn't complete it. At the time I left flight training, I was managing 1,600 crew with Ryanair Group before I was promoted to head of the department. And I was traveling all over Europe, and I really had to rack my brain and say, why can't I get this done? And it really was the inefficiencies outside me, the blinkers on the commercial pilots, the non-development and non-disruption of the aviation for a really long time that broke it. And my main core mission here is to break that, disrupt it, and re-implement a new global way of doing this for part-time people, and to take that and strip the exclusivity out. We manage with community-based mentoring, encouragement, study material, target setting, and it delivers a vastly improved completion rate. So you're not on your own here when you're trying to move PilotPath. By reducing this isolation, we've managed with our partner skills to move drop-off rates from an industry disastrous 60+% to just 5% of our students all time over the last 2 years dropping off. It's been a game changer in terms of how we've developed these pilots. Our revenue and business model is quite simple. We've generated over 700,000 revenues since our operational start in 2020, and our business model is based off management fees charged to student pilots, flight skills, and ultimately airlines as we place them as recruitment fees. It's important to note that the ratio is heavily based on the flight skills so that we can offer competitive pricing to our student pilots in line with the rest of the market and on a phase basis for them to pay over 6, 12, 18, or 24 months, rather than turning up at a flight school and, in my personal experience, being told to sell the car and I could start flight training. It wasn't feasible. It's not feasible today, and this is where PilotPath takes over from that. Our margin target on gross transaction values is 15%, and our traction to date has left us with 75 students signed up in Ireland and the UK, reaching close to 100 now this month, with a really good recruitment phase in July and June. Our first Slack community channel based in Ireland and the UK has been put together to take that isolation out and bring everyone together from a modular basis. And it's important to note that we've released the first financing packages secured with the Home Group here in Ireland, and our brokerage license has just been approved in the UK to offer the same 7% interest loans up to €35,000. As I said earlier, we have 10 flight school partners signed up in the EU, UK, and US. And all PilotPath students will end with a Ryanair mentored program in the Airline Flight Academy based in Santry. Our expansion into the UK market in 2023 has already occurred through being bootstrapped, and we've launched with our partner there, as said, taking our last student, our first student, just over a month ago. We are going to continue moving into the locations I've outlined earlier on. And everybody, it's very important to know that this will all be regulated under the European Aviation Safety Authority and the local aviation governing bodies, as PilotPath will only work with these type of skills. A quick outline in our team as we stand now. We have 3 proprietary directors, including myself, who is full-time with PilotPath from last year and previously head of department with Ryanair Group. I'm responsible for delivering the overall business growth and expansion and accountable for the company. Anthony Glennon, the ACCA, is our financial director and currently a director with Phil Stafford. He's a practicing liquidator and he's responsible for all financial operations of the organisation, including the governance. Christopher Curtis has previously worked for me in Tesco Ireland as a logistics manager and an operations manager, and has accepted to come on board last year to run the day-to-day COGS, with Craig Kelly coming on previously from Ryanair as a regional flight operations manager to look after the retention and development of students who are currently flight training. Stephen Price is our commercial pilot mentor and active commercial pilot and synthetic flight instructor who has a massive background in subject matter expertise and advises me and the students personally. As I've said, we've no debt on our balance sheets. We have 100,000 equity capital invested in the business to date. We are projecting 4 million annual revenues from year 3, with an additional Series A planned for Q2 in 2025 to take the business west. Our concept is quite unique in that it's coordination of services rather than outright provision. So our competitors are at the product level, who I've already outlined, we've far exceeded. To give an example of that, in the last 30 years, the National Flight Centre published our overall students pushed through to airline in the last 30 years, and it averages at 75 per year. PilotPath has been able to exceed that within 1 year. Our product level is typically large integrated full-time skills, which already exists straight across Europe and the UK. We're raising 500,000 overall, with 250,000 ideally from HESU as we're an Enterprise Ireland client, and we're raising 250,000 here with Spark. We've zero debt and we are EIS applicable. Our pre-money valuation sits at 3 million, which equates to 0.75 year 3 revenues and is within the professional service sector typical range. And if the company raises our financial targets in the next 24 months and goes for Series A funding, we expect to return 10x return to Spark investors. Our exit strategy is that we'll build the business to be delivering these pilots with 2,500 successful placements by 2027 and make it a very attractive bolt-on acquisition for large flight skills are one of the 5 top airlines within the EU as they struggle and scramble to recruit pilots into the next decade. And why invest in PilotPath is very much based on the concept is working. We've delivered a lot of people over the last 2 years. We've delivered a lot of revenue over 2 years. This business started as a concept and a eureka moment driving home from my flight training. And I've grown it from a piece of paper with 1 or 2 ideas into a fully operational business due to exceed cumulative revenues of 1 million this year. We've huge experience, and I personally have huge experience managing over 10,000 staff for global carriers and fantastically deep connections within the industry to make this work. We're a management platform that's disrupting this rigid status quo. We're increasing the flight school access for part-time people, and we're giving this opportunity to people that never would have had it before. This success will translate to 15 million of revenues between 23-27, our Series A funding, our projection to move west, and a massive return for our investors. Thank you very much for everybody who has listened in here, and I'd be happy to answer any questions as we go along now in the Q&A. Thanks very much, Chris, for hosting there.
No problem. Thank you very much indeed, Craig. Brilliant presentation and clearly defined. Thanks very much indeed. Perhaps you can unshare your screen and we'll have us all front and center and crack into a few. There's a number of questions that have come in. So we'll get flying through them. It's early days yet, but as pilots are placed with the airlines, what are your expectations for the size of potential recruitment into those airlines?
So there's 2 sides of it here. Typically from a recruitment point of view as aviation, we're managing seasons and usually 2 seasons out, which would typically be a year. The ratio of modularized pilots that comes into airline would be low in comparison to the integrated model as we stand today, but that's simply because the modular people don't sit. If we look at airlines such as Ryanair who've placed orders for 300 Boeing 737 MAX aircraft over the next 5 years, typically across the industry, you would need around 10 to 20 pilots to man each aircraft, which we will look at around a 3,000 shortage from just deliveries. Outside that, we've had a really good period of economic and peaceful stability within the European Union up to the Ukrainian invasion by Russia last year. And that has led us to a point where pilots typically trained from a military background across the EU single market in the UK has absolutely fallen off a cliff, and we don't have that backlog that we had in the 80s, 90s and 90s. And that's where the scramble comes from, and I suppose where we didn't predict it coming from.
Very good.
Excellent. Hi, Craig. Why is your success rate so high compared to the traditional pilot training programs?
It's quite simple, to be honest with you. It's because if you're training on your own from a modular point of view, like myself, I had a full-time job. I was concentrating on life, partners, houses, and everything else that comes into this way. And very quickly, I became demotivated and frustrated with the difficulties associated with pilot training. What I'm not doing to our students is, I'm not saying that this is easy. I'm saying that there's an awful lot of work that has to go into it, but allow my team to have the foresight to take out the personal issues that are going to come along, take out the issues that are going to come along from a financial point of view and the pitfalls you're going to hit, and streamline this training along a set of metrics and milestones that they will hit along the side of this, each piece of their training, to deliver them to the end within the time frame that they've expected. We're using live documents to train people from our commercial pilot mentor and to guide them along the route so that it's continuously changing. So for example, a student of ours last summer had a really horrific car crash up in Donegal. He asked us to support them in the way we could, in terms of pivoting his training plan, giving them time off from finance payments and so on and so forth. That student actually passed their skills test as a pilot last week. He's on our Instagram, his name is Ryan, and you couldn't be prouder of it. And that would have been a perfect example. This guy is from Mayo and traveling to us over in Wicklow. It's a perfect example of the likes of me, who fell off the horse and just never went back. And I'm still not a commercial pilot to this day. So the world works in weird ways, but
that's because you're now running a successful business, Craig. That's what it is.
Chris, I wanted to be a Spanish teacher 10 years ago, so let's see where it goes now in the next 10 years.
Anyway, okay, double question in the same question here. Isn't 65 grand beyond the reach of many students, and how is that done? And obviously you'll talk about the finance package that you've got, but also how are you attracting those trainees into the school, into the business?
Perfect. So the first thing I would say is, yes, 65,000 is expensive. And one thing that we've drilled into the team over the last year is that we never call flight training cheap. However, when we look at 65,000 over a relatively medium period of time, i.e. the typical amount that takes the part-time train, which is 4 years, we're looking more at average equal payments of around €700 per month, depending on the license that they're hitting. The reason that is working and that is there is because the student is typically prepared to put this investment into themselves rather than putting it into account for saving. And I'm sure plenty of people on the call here know plenty of people that are financing out 2022 cars and Golfs for €60,000, and the concept is the same. You pay at a rate you can afford. If you can afford 400 per month, you will complete your first stage of training over 2 years. If you can afford 800 per month, you will complete it over 1 year. Everyone will reach the same goal within that time frame, but we do not turn away anyone that is coming to us and asking for support in doing it. And we make sure that it's financially viable for them so that they can finish it. How we find them, Chris, and how we've done it is we've had to go out to market with a really defined plan and market strategy to find these people. Because obviously it was, at one stage, it was like putting a needle into a haystack. What we've been able to do is take the data we have from our last 100 customers that we've placed and be able to define very geographically located and determine factors in terms of their age, profile, socioeconomic background, work background, and so on and so forth, to give us a continuous stream of students, which has allowed me to pay for full-time people, rent our office, and pay all our overheads with no debt, as well as bootstrap us out of the country.
Great.
Brilliant. So just on your expansion, so how do you plan on successfully expanding into Europe, and what are your first locations, Craig?
Well, that is a good one there. So we have moved into the UK, as I said, and what we have defined as specific regional pieces of the UK that we can move into, as well as specific European countries. At the core of this, in the context that everyone would need to understand, is that pilot training varies in price across the board. If I had €60,000 cash here, I could go down to the south of Spain and I could train full-time for 2 years and make this happen. However, I'd need to give up my job for 2 years, which obviously wouldn't work. What we've done is we've taken Western European standard of living, i.e. in Benelux countries, in Northern Italy, in the middle of France towards Paris and so on and so forth, and regionally located where pilot training is quite expensive and where the model will operate from there. What we've done to deliver to market is so for example, when we move to the UK, because the regulation is so heavy by the Civil Aviation Authority, we took a list of over 100 schools that are registered within the UK domain. We first crossed that off by the metrics we need to hit to make our platform work from a quality basis, and that brought us down to 12. We then looked across the 5 different regions and decided to move into the Northwest, as that was the skill with the biggest population as we stand today and the biggest surrounding population. And then once we began meeting with them, brought the value adds, worked through the process and negotiated our rates, we were able to expand right in. My aim here, Fergal, and something I always say is don't reinvent the wheel. This has worked. Our marketing strategy has worked to date. What we need to do is create this and create it within a very reasonable time frame to hit the numbers that I'm looking to hit. And that's the plan I look to take within the UK over next year. In Europe, the biggest demand is in Italy, with over 78% of commercial pilots coming from Italy. And it will be in a school around Bergamo that we will look to use with our unfair advantage of the connections that we have through aviation to get our way into the skill and negotiate the rates that we need to deliver our value adds to them.
There's nothing unfair about that. Just you've got some nice contacts. That's good. Okay.
Network, Chris, yeah,
quick double question. Who are your competitors? And I guess you'll talk about the current kind of training mechanism, but also perhaps others that are looking to kind of do similar things. I don't know. And also, what are you doing therefore to create a moat around the business so that you can stymie their progress and keep more of the pie for yourself?
Absolutely. So to start with our competitors, as I said earlier on, it's on more of a product offering basis. So you did direct flight training side of things, as PilotPath is an entirely unique concept that had never been completed across the world, and it was wholly thought by myself. When we implemented the concept, the first thing we needed to do was prove concept, and that we have with our 100 students here now in Ireland. Our biggest competitors in Ireland are 2 really, really good skills. They're full-time focus skills in the National Flight Centre in Weston Airport and Atlantic Flight Training Academy down in Cork. Now, these skills would typically turn over smaller numbers than what we've garnered over the last year. However, they're focused on a high margin model, i.e. they will recruit 100 people, they'll make 40 grand per person, and then the student will come out with its full qualifications within 2 years. What we have done, and what's a really interesting statistic, is that we've actually taken 13% of our overall student population directly from our competitors. What happens when someone goes to these skills and wants to rent a plane to complete their training is they turn up, they pay €275 an hour, and best of luck. There's no real structure on the metrics and milestones we need to hit. And what happens is you end up like me. You end up with 34 hours, no exams, no metrics, and no milestones hit, and €15,000 in a hole. And what we've done is we've put that structure, and we only focus on the guys with €200-300. We're not focused on the guys with €100, which has led them to naturally come to us instead. In terms of the moat that we provided around the company, we've done that by garnering exclusivity in our home base here in Wicklow, and by getting in and negotiating preferential rates with the skills because of our demonstrated value adds as we progress outside Ireland. What we're working toward at the moment from our main horizon post-investment is to develop technology that will allow, we obviously can't be partnered with every skill across Europe because they won't necessarily hit our metrics, but our technology platform is in place on a world first to be able to use and reap half the benefits, or around 50 to 60% of the efficiency benefits of PilotPath model, and develop that in a software that we can sell to our non-partners and our competitors to manage their directly training guys that are part-time, and it gives us a much bigger global spin on the operation and how we can work and how we can be everywhere in the next couple of years.
Very good. Listen, thank you very much for that, Craig. There's still loads more questions, but we've run out of time. It's 2 o'clock. I don't want to prevent anybody else going on to the next meeting. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much for you, Aidan, as well. So you've heard from both of the businesses now. They're both live on the platform. You can go in and invest if you think that is a worthy investment for your money. And I would suggest that it might well be. They are both excellent businesses, both scalable, and hopefully will do very, very well. We can arrange one-on-one calls if you'd like to ask Craig or Aidan anything specific one-on-one. So please contact myself or Fergal or anybody else in the team, and we can arrange that. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it, guys. And I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar, if not before. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Thanks, everyone.
thank you.